Hello, it is good to be with you. I'm going to speak to you tonight about what is happening in uh, Syria and just exactly what's taking place. It's very important that you guys get an update as to what's going on there with the Christians, what is taking place politically. Um, I really want you to watch. I'm going to talk to you about some critical things tonight. What I want you to do is to listen, to share, and to like this broadcast so others can watch it, others can view. Let me know where you're watching from. I always appreciate seeing where my listeners and viewers are from. And I'm going to play a clip for you to give you a little preface as to why I'm so involved in this political world and what I'm doing even now. But I'm going to play this clip, and it's a little discourse I had with Vivek Ramaswamy, who was a former presidential candidate in the United States. So just take a listen.
Vivek, good to see you. I'm a pastor from Iowa. You ran a fabulous campaign in Iowa. God bless you. God bless your family. I'm also a missionary in Armenia. And I noticed that you have spoken about Armenia. I was a witness to the ethnic cleansing of Nagorno-Karabakh, Artsakh, and the desecration of the oldest Christian churches in the world. It's the oldest Christian nation. How are we as the United States going to get behind persecuted Christians in places like the South Caucasus and the Middle East? How can we do that? And how can we stand for freedom and liberty and justice for our country and allow these Christians to be persecuted the way they have been in places such as Armenia?
Well, thank you, Pastor. Good to talk to you again. And I'm glad you're raising this because I want to answer this in a way that really clarifies the answer here. Because you might hear about this. I was the only presidential candidate who spoke about this because it's important. There's 120,000 Armenian Christians who were displaced from their homeland in the Artsakh region. Does that mean that we should be going to war and fighting somebody else's war for their border? As I've opposed it in Ukraine, we shouldn't be doing it in Armenia either. But actually, here's the dirty little secret. It is actually the U.S. taxpayer, all of us, who is funding Azerbaijan to actually do it. That's the ugly underbelly of the whole thing is our own taxpayer dollars are paying for it. So the irony is everybody who's somehow in the Ukraine caucus, which is the most popular political party in the United States of America apparently, doesn't have a peep to say about actually the real human rights travesty that we're responsible for funding. So here's my belief. It's controversial, but I'll say it anyway. The first and sole moral duty of U.S. elected leaders is actually to the citizens of the United States of America. And we stand with our allies by not funding the very people who are trampling over them. And you have 120,000 reasons for me to continue to talk about this issue as I will, and I'm hoping to travel to Armenia later this year to actually make the point. So thank you, my man.
I'll invite you. Come with me.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Very good. I hope you enjoyed that little video. So I believe on the whole what Vivek Ramaswamy had to say in principle was good. I think the United States does need to worry about itself, and it shouldn't be a police state, and it shouldn't be getting involved in all these other countries like Ukraine and Israel. And I think we should enjoy the fruits of our own sovereignty. And I think we really shouldn't be meddling in the affairs of other governments. At the same time, when we are a people who choose to do so, our State Department chooses to get involved in these other countries, and they do it upon the quote unquote premise of justice and what is right versus what is wrong. What you end up having in the case of Armenia is what's called selective outrage, because we really didn't do anything for Armenia. In fact, we harmed them in many ways. by waiving Section 907 under President Trump's administration, under Barack Obama's administration, under George Bush's administration. And Section 907 was the prohibition against arms sales to Azerbaijan and financial aid to Azerbaijan, but yet we did it anyway. So now let's talk about Syria. Syria has been a very hostile place for quite a long time. It hasn't really had a strong, stable government, and it has been in the throes of other empires and governments for centuries. It's a hostile region with a lot of conflict. The reality is there are thousands and thousands of Armenians that live in Syria now. So Armenians have every right to be concerned or to be scared with what is taking place. It's a scary situation. Um, they're in danger. The Armenians living in Syria are in danger. Now, the first Syrian Armenians I met while in Egypt, and I became acquainted with them. Actually, at the time I was in Egypt, I was meeting with Bishop Ashot and other Armenian Egyptians, and became acquainted with that community. But we talked about the terrible situation that the Armenian Christians were in, living in Syria, and how many of them had fled. And then recently, a dear friend of mine reached out to me from the East Coast. His name is Dear Bedros, and Bedros Shetilian. He's a composer. He's a very interesting man, and he reached out to me and he asked me if I knew what was going on in Syria, and I kind of knew to an extent just from what I had heard through Telegram channels and through YouTube. But it's pretty scary what's going on there right now because there are 50,000 Christians that live in Aleppo, and Aleppo has just been taken over by these rebels, pro-Turkish rebels. They've taken over the city, and now those 50,000 Christians are in danger. There are riots happening in Damascus, and there's a lot of unrest. There's the hypothesis that there could be a possible land border between Kurdistan and Jordan by the Kurds, applying them with a direct link to Israel. And that begs the question, are these rebels backed by Israel? That is one of the questions that I have. But Assad has fallen to this pro-Turkish jihadist rebels. It's quite scary to see, actually. But we need to pray. We need to pray for these Christians. We need to contact our representatives to see that these Christians are taken care of, that they're protected at every level, that they have a safe passage out. Hopefully, they have some ancient churches in Aleppo, Christian churches that have been there since like the 800s, from the 9th century, even 8th century. Those churches will probably be destroyed. These jihadists, they don't love Christians. They don't love Christianity, and they wish to destroy it and wipe it from the face of the earth. So be praying for all the Christians living in Syria, and be praying for all those who are affected by Turkey, Azerbaijan, and all of these ISIS, jihadist, Islamist terrorists, these Mohammedans that are on the warpath to wipe Christianity out from the Middle East. And I think those jihadists might include people in the Israeli government. I think that there are very questionable policies coming from Israel and its State Department and how it deals with Christians. I mean, them selling weapons to Azerbaijan to kill Christians living in Artsakh, reprehensible. But I think that these jihadists might be backed by Israel, which is even scarier. I think there should be some investigation into that. And I think the ICC is right to put out a warrant against Benjamin Netanyahu, because I don't think that this guy cares about democracy. I don't think he cares about Christians. He is guilty of war crimes, and he should be tried for them. And so should Aliyev, and so should Erdogan. But may God bless you guys. I hope you have a wonderful night. Be praying for the Christians in Syria. Contact your representatives, your congressmen, your senators. Let's try and figure out some way to get these Christians out safe.